Today on Investigate TV Plus, the gift of life comes at a cost.
Anyone who decides to make that sacrifice should not be punished for helping save someone's life.
We uncover the struggles living organ donors face and the solutions to offer them support.
Plus, a remarkable event at a remote wildlife sanctuary.
Using this habitat as a sort of a last bastion, if you will, in the state of Louisiana, it's all the more reason to restore those ecosystems.
How the world's smallest sea turtle could shape the future of an entire ecosystem.
And the power of perseverance.
He never backed down, not for a moment. He did not take no for an answer. He would find a different way and a different route.
One veteran's courageous fight to honor a fallen hero.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Organ donation is often called the gift of life, yet across the U.S., experts say there aren't nearly enough donors. I'm T. Chappelle.
And I'm Lee Zurich. In fact, about 17 people die every day waiting for an organ transplant. And every 8 minutes, another name is added to the national transplant wait list. They are mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings, even children. Advocates we spoke with say living organ donors could be a critical solution to this deadly problem.
Reporter Heather Grath goes in-depth to explain what some view as barriers to donation and the push for change.
Do you have more work today?
Like many couples, Annabelle Gary and Martin Glusker enjoy spending time together, cooking meals together.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Living life together.
We've been dating for almost 4 years. We met in college.
What's perhaps less common is that Annabelle and Martin decided to give life together as well.
I'm so grateful that I was able to do it.
Each of them donating a kidney to a stranger, with Annabelle's surgery happening in April 2023 and Martin's in March of 2024.
Neither one of us were gonna say, you have to do this with me. But I think it makes a lot of sense because we both had the same reaction when we first heard about it. And for most people, it's very safe to donate a kidney, and there are a ton of people who need one and are gonna die without one.
So we both did a decent amount of research. There were some good podcasts we listened to, some good articles we read. Reading all these really human stories, it felt like a moral failing that all these people weren't getting kidneys. I think every single one of them deserves it.
Government data shows the critical shortage. About 90% of more than 100,000 patients on the national transplant wait list are in need of a kidney. Yet, in 2023, there were just about 16,000 deceased donors and 6,900 living donors.
So there is very much a need.
LaVarn Burton is president of the American Kidney Fund, and while a transplant recipient's insurance will cover a living donor's medical expenses, she says there are often indirect costs that are not covered, and believes that added bill can discourage people from signing up to be living donors.
For example, will I, if I'm a donor, have a harder time than I otherwise would getting life insurance or disability insurance, or in some cases even health insurance? Will I have to pay out of my pocket, take money from my family in order to do this good thing for somebody else?
And these are not hypothetical barriers. These are issues that you guys hear about from real living organ donors.
Absolutely, these are real issues that people face. What we're trying to do with living organ donor protections is to increase the number of people who are able to say, I want to give the gift of life.
What needs to change here?
Well, one of the things that needs to change is we really need a national law. We need to enhance protections for people throughout the country and make them consistent.
On Capitol Hill, Congressman Jerry Nadler of New York told us he first learned about barriers to living organ donation about 12 years ago, when one of his staffers gave a kidney to her own child.
Well, she couldn't get insurance. She was discriminated against in life insurance afterwards for having donated the kidney.
Does that feel wrong to you?
Yes, it's absolutely wrong.
Since then, Nadler has introduced numerous bipartisan bills trying to right that wrong. Most recently, in 2023, the Living Donor Protection Act would prohibit insurance companies from denying new coverage or increasing current premiums for living donors. And the Living Donor Tax Credit Act would provide a $5,000 one-time refundable tax credit to donors who were not previously reimbursed for costs related to donation.
We ought to want to encourage organ donations in every way. We want to save lives. And that's what this is about.
From the medical perspective, transplant surgeon Dr. Stephen Potter says there's no question living organ donors make a difference.
Living donor kidneys are better than deceased donor kidneys for two really important reasons. One is you don't have to wait for them, and the second reason is they're higher quality.
Potter works at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital in Washington, D.C., and serves as a committee chair for the American Society of Transplant Surgeons. He thinks the removal of financial disincentives could help increase the number of living donors.
Absolutely, I think it would.
But he's keenly aware it's illegal to buy or sell organs in the U.S. and says it's important any proposed changes don't seek to compensate donors, but rather offset their expenses to ensure organ donation is a cost-neutral act.
At ASTS, we really feel that we should focus on removing disincentives because we don't want to create a situation where we're essentially paying people for donating organs.
Potter also happens to be the surgeon who removed Martin's kidney back in March.
It was very smooth.
Easy.
I was in the hospital for one night.
As for any donation-related costs on their end, Martin and Annabelle say they were lucky enough to get reimbursements through the nonprofit National Kidney Registry and feel strongly that more support for living organ donors is needed.
Anyone who decides to make that sacrifice should not be punished for helping save someone's life.
And though the couple has yet to meet their transplant recipients,
Dear donor,
about a month after Martin's donation, he did receive this handwritten letter from the woman who got his kidney.
to change the life of a total stranger who you may never meet makes me feel very privileged to have part of you with me.
A message of gratitude.
I would like to say thank you. I truly appreciate your sacrifice.
He will never forget.
It's very sweet.
It's really sweet.
Every year, the American Kidney Fund publishes a living donor protection report card that grades each state on its living donor laws. For instance, whether they require paid leave from employers, protection against insurance discrimination, and tax credits or direct reimbursement for donation-related expenses such as travel or lodging. In 2024, the AKF says just 3 states received an A grade, while 5 states got Fs, found to have 0 policy protections in place for living donors.
Advocates say there's been some progress at the state level. In 2023, New York became the first state to pass legislation that provides direct reimbursement to living donors for expenses not covered by insurance up to $10,000.
At the federal level, Congressman Nadler's attempts to pass living donor protections have not yet advanced, but he says he will keep trying. In the meantime, there are a few existing programs that offer financial support to help offset a donor's out-of-pocket costs.
And you can find those resources right now on InvestigateTV.com. From an empty nest to a full house, how a couple's work with foster care is changing lives and challenging perceptions.
Step up and be that parent or be that someone for that kid.
Plus, tiny turtles shine a spotlight on the importance of barrier islands.
There aren't that many places in the world that belong to everybody, but actually belong to no human. And Chandler Islands is one of those.
Why saving a sliver of land in Louisiana could be crucial for both wildlife and humans.
Barrier islands are critical to protecting coastal communities from extreme weather, but many along the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico are disappearing at an alarming rate.
Louisiana's Chandeleur Islands are no exception. Researchers believe the islands are in danger of being submerged in 20 years.
While most people will never visit, this thin stretch of land is teeming with life. And conservationists believe the discovery of a critically endangered species could make the case for restoring what experts call vitally important land.
Reporter John Snell explains what's at stake.
A newly hatched sea turtle makes a mad dash from its mother's nest to the Gulf of Mexico. Over the last couple years, this scene has played out on beaches in Alabama and Mississippi, and since 2022 on Louisiana's Chandeleur Islands. For the first time in 75 years, the highly endangered Kemp's Ridley sea turtle produced offspring along Louisiana's coast.
In terms of its importance to wildlife, I would say it is the single most important place on the northern Gulf Coast.
The Chandeleur Islands, a 50-mile-long arc of sand and seagrass, form Louisiana's easternmost point, home to tens of thousands of nesting birds. Even veteran biologists still get wowed at the sight of a seagull chick breaking free of its egg. But the Chandeleur Islands have been in a state of decline for decades. A Google Earth image shows the island chain in 2003 versus this shot from 2020. Katrina did a number on this place, blowing a new cut through one of the islands.
When a hurricane takes these islands down, there will be a few years where there may be no attempt to nest out there.
This is easily the most remote place in Louisiana. You can get here by seaplane or by boat, a sometimes bumpy 2-hour ordeal in the Gulf of Mexico. On this day, an angry Gulf forced a group of coastal scientists and state officials to postpone their trip. Saving this place also poses challenges, and that's where the turtles come in. The National Park Service says Kemp's Ridleys are the most endangered sea turtles in the world. State coastal leaders hope their discovery here could help make the case for restoring the island.
The most endangered sea turtle in the world, using this habitat as a sort of a last bastion, if you will. In the state of Louisiana, it's all the more reason to restore those ecosystems.
It would not come cheap. The state has the money to design a restoration project, but the estimated construction costs add up to roughly $300 million.
I don't think that you can correlate money to our culture and our heritage and our way of life being lost, John, because, you know, how do you put a dollar figure on that?
The Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority hopes to cobble together the money from a variety of sources, including fines associated with the 2010 Gulf oil spill. Barrier islands are often called the first line of defense against hurricanes. Surge experts for the Army Corps of Engineers say the Chandeleur Islands are now so remote, hurricanes roll over the islands with plenty of time for the surge to rebuild. But advocates say there are other considerations. Many people will never visit this place, inhabited by no man. But there is something about knowing it's here.
There aren't that many places in the world that belong to everybody, but actually belong to no human. And Chandeleur Islands is one of those.
Mel Landry, a marine habitat specialist with NOAA, points out there is still something here to build on.
It's so expensive to go back and build something that is no longer there when there's not a foundation to build on. We still have a foundation out there at the Chandeleur Islands. Let's restore it while we can.
State leaders feel a sense of urgency. The occupants on the Chandeleur Islands are rapidly running out of real estate.
Finds from the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill have also helped restore thousands of acres of barrier islands and marshland along the Gulf Coast, including Louisiana's Queen Bess and Rabbit Islands, where the state bird, the brown pelican, is now thriving.
I just kept shaking my head and being in awe of the variety of vegetation that we have that's really starting to look thick and rich, and we're seeing brown pelicans nesting throughout the whole island.
But scientists warn rising sea levels threaten to swamp coastal restoration efforts. To learn how, visit InvestigateTV.com and search Sinking Delta.
Still ahead, memories resurface and lead a Vietnam veteran on a 9-year journey to honor a fallen comrade.
I'm that type of guy. I will not give up on something that I know is correct and right.
But first, two dads prove that love knows no bounds when it comes to giving children a place to call home.
Sometimes I get backlash about, well, they need a mother figure, they need a father figure. No, they don't. They need love, structure,
On any given night, hundreds of kids in the foster care system sleep in hotels, offices, and jails. It happens when states struggle to find homes for them, especially for children who are older and have a higher level of need.
In order to recruit more foster parents, some agencies have turned to the LGBTQ community.
Reporter Lauren Lowry introduces us to a Nashville couple who's encouraging others to open their hearts and their homes.
You know, we do a lot of things with the kids. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I like to make their spaces that they live in theirs.
It's mealtime at the Van Zants, and everyone pitches in. Sandwiched between dads Michael and Travis are their 3 kids, a growing family that started with foster care.
How many kids have you had come through your home already?
We've fostered 20 kids so far.
All the 20 kids that came here, it's all been different. They've all had different personalities. They've all been treated differently. It's opened my eyes to see what all children go through.
All right, let's go see your room.
It's why this couple has become such passionate advocates for kids in need. In Tennessee, 6,264 children are currently in foster homes. But according to DCS, there are still 170 kids in state custody with no home to go to. In shocking images released in December 2022, DCS showed the living conditions of homeless children, making beds under desks in DCS offices and office refrigerators filled with junk as their only access to food.
Help me understand the need for foster parents in the state of Tennessee.
There's a huge need. We especially need foster homes in the rural areas. When kids come into custody, we have to place them in homes that are available, and sometimes that means that the children are placed several hours away from where they're coming from. And they have to move schools, they have to make new friends, and all of that is more trauma added on to what the child has already experienced.
The Van Zants are trying to change that. For them, it started 4 years ago when they visited an information booth at Nashville's Pride Festival. It was run by the foster agency Youth Villages, which gave them the family they'd always wanted.
Sometimes I get backlash about, well, they need a mother figure, they need a father figure, they need a male and a female, they need this, they need that. No, they don't. They need love, structure, that's all they need. Step up and be that parent or be that someone for that kid.
Youth Villages is in 27 states, including Alabama, Ohio, Oregon, and South Carolina. The agency will help guide prospective parents through their state's foster care process, which often includes online training and home visits. Youth Villages also provides additional training to help better understand a child's trauma.
A labor of love, decades in the making. Up next, how building and filling a shadow box with military medals helped a Vietnam veteran heal.
A Vietnam veteran from Missouri went on a years-long mission to reward a fellow soldier's heroic act.
Reporter Zach Summers shows us how it's never too late to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
And that one there. Good, it's coming along great.
When we first met Steve Kildee, he had enlisted his friend, Bill Perry, to build a wooden shadow box.
We got lots of clamps.
The case wasn't for Steve, but for the family of a veteran who died more than 50 years ago.
It's been a long road. It's been a chase.
May 27th, 1970. Steve was an engineering maintenance sergeant in the U.S. Army serving in the Vietnam War. Frank Mebbs, a soldier he met at Fort Leonard Wood in south central Missouri 2 years prior, was using a bulldozer to help contain a fire near an ammunition dump when it exploded, killing him.
If his dozer hadn't taken the full blunt, there was enough ammunition in that ammunition dump probably to blow the whole top of the hill off.
Steve, who was part of the recovery team, believes Frank's actions saved the lives of many that day, but the 82-year-old had buried the memory for decades. That is until 2014, while being treated for PTSD, a psychiatrist asked him this.
Well, the question he asked was if I'd seen anybody that was dead. And I don't know what it was, but my mind went to Frank.
Steve was told simply to do something, so he started researching Frank Mebbs.
I'd spend 10, 12 hours on a computer looking for things.
He found the fallen soldier was deserving of several honors his family never received, including the Army Commendation Medal, which recognizes acts of heroism.
I'm that type of guy. I will not give up on something that I know is correct and right.
With the blessing of Frank's family, Steve started reaching out to members of Congress, journalists, and veteran groups to try and secure Frank's awards, but he says no one was interested.
Frustrating, very frustrating.
In 2022, he sent a letter to the White House detailing his years-long work. A year later, he finally got the response he had been looking for.
Thank you for contacting the National Records Center. We are pleased to authorize the shipment of the following awards.
It means a lot.
Megan Frazier is Frank's niece. She praised Steve for his persistence.
He never backed down, not for a moment. He did not take no for an answer. He would find a different way and a different route. This isn't something that we were fighting for. This has been his fight that we have joined in on. And we just have so much respect for him.
Respect for a veteran who was told to do something, and that he did.
I figured it out, and I think I can close it out.
On Memorial Day in 2024, Steve presented Frank's awards in that shadow box to his family on the 54th anniversary of his death. A few days later, Bucks County, Pennsylvania also renamed a bridge in Frank's honor. Such a great legacy there for Frank, his family, but also Steve, helping him heal as well, too.
And after all this time, his family finally has those awards that they should have had all along.
Decades ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, high winds can whip a bounce house into the air, possibly injuring or even killing the children inside.
You go there with one thing in mind, having fun, being at a party, and then it's just in a flash, it happens, and it's tragedy.
We break down when the inflatable activity is safe to use and how to tell if it's been properly set up.